Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today on Herculean Path, I'm pleased to be speaking with Michael Del Russi. Greetings, Michael. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm very happy to be with everybody.
And I'm happy you're here as well. Um, I was reviewing some things I've done over the years, and some things I discontinued, and they're going to remain discontinued, and some things I thought of bringing back. And one of the things I'm bringing back is I used to watch Sword and Sandal movies and publish something called Sword and Sandal for the Soul. And I
Okay.
write a couple of paragraphs on what life lessons were there in the movie I just watched, and I did that for
hmm
years. So I thought that was fun.
hmm
And, I figured I would bring that back again starting this month. So I'm going to start with either the Triumph of the Son of Hercules, which is this month's movie,
hmm
the Sons of Hercules group, or Samson and His Mighty Challenge, which is one of Alan Steele's movies where he plays Hercules.
hmm
And so that's in that group as well. So it'll be one of those movies that I start with, and if people want to join in, I have the links where they can watch the movie for free, and this way they could follow what we're saying. And if they want to leave questions or comments in the groups, we'll integrate those as well. So that's coming soon.
Well, that sounds like fun, and I can't wait for that to begin.
Have you had a chance to watch any Sword and Sandal movies this month?
Yes, I watched Samson and His Mighty Challenges. I
Oh,
believe that was
great.
the title. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, and Triumph, Triumph of the Sons of Hercules. Believe it or not, I think I watched yesterday.
Oh, great. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch them yet. I'll be watching them in the next few days to prepare. So, which movie do you want to talk about first? And I remember them. I remember Samson's Mighty Challenge much better than I remember the Triumph of the Son of Hercules. So I guess we'll start with that one.
Well, Samson and His Mighty Challenges was very interesting, and I found it. There was a lot of comedy in it. There was a little bit of a comedy in the film, which I thought was interesting. And but all in all, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun, actually. Um,
I liked
and
it because they had all the Peplum stars in it. They had Ursus, they had Machiste, they had Samson, they had Hercules. So they had all
yes,
different Sword and Sandal movies in the same movie. And yeah, I liked that it was a comedy too. And they had dubbed it and made it into another comedy called Hercules Returns.
oh really?
Yes, so it was
I
it
did
was
not know that.
it was already a comedy, so they made it another comedy by rewriting it.
And then the Triumph of the Son of Hercules. I thought that was very well done, actually, all around. I thought it was a very well done. It was interesting. It had a number of strength trials of strength and what have you. And uh, this what was his name is this the star is the name is slipping me right now.
Yeah, I
Uh,
remember that one very well.
yeah, it was excellent. It was excellent, and I forget his name, believe it or not, but that was an excellent film, very well done, and it had a little bit of everything you would expect from a above average sword and sandal film. So I really enjoyed that. Uh, and I can't remember his. Oh, Kirk Morris.
Okay.
Kirk Morris. Kirk Morris. Kirk Morris had an excellent physique, very symmetrical, and I mean the physique was outstanding. As a matter of fact, we haven't talked about him much in our get-togethers, but Kirk Morris was. I don't know. He may very well be still alive. I'm not sure, but I thought he was excellent in that, and I think he also made Hercules in Atlantis or something. I think that was the subtitle. which was a pretty good film. It wasn't as exciting as the Triumph of the Son of Hercules, but I would say Triumph was probably his best and showed off his physique at his very best. So I enjoyed that one. So I enjoyed both, but I liked the Triumph very much. I think Kirk Morris did an excellent job. He doesn't seem to be, I don't know what other films are attributed to him. I know he's done others, but I always enjoyed that one. I always enjoyed that one very much. Hello? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yes,
Okay, we seem
we
to
were.
have some a sound problem.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now perfectly, so we'll pick up from the point where we last were. Yeah, that sounds great. I'm looking forward to watching it. It sounds like the idea behind the board game, The Sons of Hercules. I have the board game. It was given to me by a very
Mhm.
good friend who also represented a few Peplum movies. And he had Hercules and the Prince of Troy. He had redone that a bit, and he had given it a different title. And he gave me the board game for the Sons of Hercules. So the plot that you're describing with the different trials sounds a lot like the board game.
I don't think I ever. When did the board game come out? Do you know?
In the 60s, I remember it was around when I was a kid, and I have a
Mhm.
Sons of Hercules puzzle, and I have
Really?
other Sons of Hercules things. Yeah, I remember getting
I
the
had no
puzzle from
idea.
John's bargain store back in the day.
John's bargain store. Now, that certainly
Bargain-
brings back memories. Another film by him that I enjoyed was Colossus and the Headhunters.
Yes,
I don't know if
yes.
that. Did you see that one?
I saw it. I don't remember much about it, but it's definitely on my list to rewatch. I think I shared as I get older, all these movies blend together, blend together,
Yeah,
and they become one
but
big sword and sandal adventure. So now that I'm watching, I'm trying to remember all the different stories and all the different actors and so on and so forth. But it's like discovering them again, which is one good thing, I guess, about forgetting a lot of things. You get to re-experience things as if for the first time, rather than being bogged down with too much information.
well, and yes, and also I think watching them again in the right environment brings a fresh appreciation of what they were, as opposed to what you may have been exposed to, say, 10 years ago. There's another appreciation, another level of appreciation for various aspects of these films. So I enjoy watching them again. There's always something new to see.
For a while, I tried tracking down some of these people and seeing if I could interview them. And I was one email away from Sergio Chiani, also known as Alan Steele, and he passed
Hmm.
away when I finally found someone who knew him and was willing to introduce me to him. So
Oh my
I
goodness.
missed that opportunity. I did talk to Mark Forrest several times. And
Did you?
yes, Mark Forrest I've had several conversations with, and he was talking about the show and what we would talk about, but then he passed away as well. And I've heard that Samson Burke is still around, and several of the other ones are still around too. So hopefully we can contact them. Samson Burke's website hasn't been updated in very many years, and I can't find them on
Hmm.
any of the social media.
Well, I know Samson Burke. Let's see, I forget what film he was in.
He was in
Uh,
Three
but
Stooges, Meet Hercules, and he was in a few other ones.
yeah, but he had an outstanding physique. I mean,
Yes.
one of the many great aspects of Sword and Sandal, um, beyond what we discussed in our last get together, was that, and this is what I loved. Anyone who trained was interested in physical culture, is that you got to, examine every physique and each of its outstanding features of the stars involved. And Samson Burke had a tremendous pec development. He had good back development. He was, I don't think he made too many films, but he also had an outstanding physique, if you will.
Hmm. Yeah, I liked his
So,
physique, and he made a good Hercules, even though it was a very unconventional one in the Three Stooges movie.
right, right, yeah. And I saw that one, but there was another one, however, strict sword and sandal film where he did quite well, and it was very enjoyable. Yeah, but it wasn't the Three Stooges meet Hercules. I remember that.
Yeah,
But
I saw that as a kid in grammar school. They played it in. I went to Greek school, so they played it for
mhm.
Halloween in an auditorium. I remember, and I have the
uh,
comic book to that as well as the movie on DVD. When VHS was popular, I had it on VHS as well.
that was good. It was enjoyable. It was
Yes, it
enjoyable.
was. It was a lot
But
of fun.
he made a few good films. I know there was one called Toto versus Machiste, which it was interesting. It was different, but again, that film also showcased his physique. Uh, he had an incredible physique, very symmetrical, and you just enjoyed watching him perform his various feats of strength, if you will. So he was another star that he probably didn't get as much attention as some of the others, but I enjoyed most of his films, the ones that I was exposed to. But he was a good one. He was a good one. So I mean, uh, my favorite of all, I would say, well, they're all great. But as far as physiques, I would have to say that uh, um, well, probably naturally Steve Reeves, of course, it ranks up there. But Reg Park, I think he did Hercules justice,
Yes, he
you
did.
know. And next to him, I would say Brad Harris. Brad Harris I enjoyed practically all of his films, from probably The Fury of Hercules and I believe it was Hercules Against the Giants, were
Hmm.
probably two of my favorites when it came to Brad Harris. Brad Harris had that rugged looking physique. He didn't have the as far as his acting, I don't think he had the grace of some of the others, but physique wise, I thought he was very impressive. I understand that in his private life, his daughter wrote a piece about him, which I read. Said, well, he was a very nice guy and he was quite an athlete. He took pride in his athletic prowess, and he loved being an athlete. So he participated in other sports besides bodybuilding. But I thought he was an outstanding Hercules in the films that I was fortunate enough to see. So each one had an outstanding feature about them when it came to their
Yes.
physical development. You know.
Yeah, I like Reg Park. He was an example of the physicality of Hercules. I feel he had an awesome physique, and he had an attitude that was unique to see in portrayals of Hercules, in being relaxed and lighthearted. As if I'm Hercules, I don't have to worry about hardly any hardly anything. So I'll take a nap while you guys are busy fixing the boat or doing whatever you're doing. And he carries
Yeah.
the movie. There were only 5 movies that he did, and I believe he played Hercules in 4 of them or 5 of them, if
Hmm.
used in some versions of the last film. But I enjoyed him a lot. I enjoyed Sergio Chiani or Alan Steele because he had a certain joy about the roles he played, even when it wasn't Hercules. When he was in the Petlem movies, he always looked like very ecstatic about being in the role. So that translated very well, and added to the portrayal in the movies. So I always liked him, and I think I shared too. I liked Nigel Green, because he was Hercules mentally so strong that it was believable, whereas everybody else was a bodybuilder. He definitely wasn't, but he portrayed the role so powerfully in Jason and the Argonauts that you could believe that he was Hercules. And I thought that was a great lesson to learn.
Yes, he would. You felt like he was Hercules.
Yes,
He left that impression with you. So yeah, I agree with you. He was very good in the role. He didn't have the physique that obviously some of the others that we're discussing, but yeah, he carried that image with him. So it was a good choice. It was a good choice. But Reg Park was outstanding. I mean, I really enjoyed all of his movies. Hercules and the Captive Women was probably my favorite.
yes,
Uh, that was probably my favorite of all of his. And then we had Hercules, Prisoner of Evil, which it was kind of like it was different parts of his films were kind of like pieced together in that one, but that was good.
yes,
And I also enjoyed Hercules the Avenger, Machiste, and King Solomon's Mines. I thought were excellent. Uh, all of his films were very well done. I thought one that was an exception, along with Hercules and Captive Women, was Hercules in the Haunted World.
yes.
I thought Christopher Lee, wasn't he great in that one?
He was, and they dubbed him for some reason, even though he could speak English perfectly, and he would have made a great voice actor for it, had they allowed him to. But they got somebody else to dub him, and that was very confusing to a lot of Christopher Lee fans.
Yeah, but he was very good in that,
Yes, he
and
was.
he was very good, and that was exciting. There were many exciting scenes in that film. I liked especially when they were, were being attacked by all of those flying demons. So that was very imaginative and very well done, I thought.
And he had his friend Theseus, who was something of a womanizer, if I remember, and then uh, one of his small people friends, I believe Antonio, his name was. I don't remember.
Yeah, I forget it. I forget his name. Yeah, but yeah, I know who you're speaking of. That was exciting, and so I thought all of Reg Park's films were very well done. Actually, very well done. So he was one of the great ones, no question about it. But as we were discussing last time, uh, besides the effect that these films had on the power of our imagination and lifting us up in terms of making us realize as individuals that these mythological heroes really dwell within us,
Right.
and and that's what I found exciting. And another aspect of that, uh, and some may would take a look at this, is that when you have that energy, when you're harnessing that energy within you, that positive quality that those films brought to us, that there's a hero in all of us, and I think that can also contribute to when we maintain that thinking on a regular basis as much as possible, and that feeling, it also brings to us, enhances our energy in terms of the power of manifestation. I
I
believe
believe that
that
as well.
Yeah, I mean, is that not so? I mean, that great feeling of we can rise above and beyond what we're experiencing here in the third dimension. I mean, they're core principles. So the core principles that Sword and Sandal brought to us, I call it Olympian vision. We're walking the Olympian path. Along with walking the Olympian path, naturally comes Olympian vision, and that the core principles that they brought to us can assist us in enhancing our own powers beyond this dimension that we exist in, and learn to tap into the kingdom within. And that's really what it's all about. So, I mean, when you're talking about, whether you're talking about the great philosophers, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Aristophanes, and whoever you may choose, it's that vision that enables us to look beyond what we can see, feel, and touch in this dimension. And the great mythologies that we're exposed to can help us to do that, especially in difficult times. So, they brought to us so much the glory of our physicality and what we're able to do on that level. But then beyond that, and I know that they carried me through some very difficult times in my life, and for that matter, they still do. They still do, no matter what I may be experiencing in terms of even physical aches and pains. When I just watch one of these films, there's another energy, another flow that takes over.
Yes.
And so suddenly my enthusiasm takes precedent, and I feel like one of those heroes. I feel like I'm part of the heroics that they're performing. And so that's what Sword and Sandal also brought to us in that magnificent decade that we were fortunate enough to live through.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, and that's why the movies still have such a powerful place in my heart. And I put them on the same level as the stories from antiquity, the stories in comic books, the stories in movies beyond Sword and Sandal, where these figures appear in psychology books like transpersonal psychology that tells you how to find these figures inside of you. In books like
Mm-hmm.
scholarly Joseph Campbell, who shows you that the
Mm-hmm.
hero myth is universal, and each culture has its own way of presenting the hero's tale, and it's pretty much, except for cultural details, universal. So yeah, it's a very powerful way to live life, and in the myths, if you're good enough at living the heroic path, you experience the apotheosis, which means becoming a god, and you're put in the heavens.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, they equated
Mm-hmm.
heavens with the night sky. So some of the heroes became constellations. So there's no
Yes.
doubt that Hercules was in heaven looking down on you, because there he is in the night sky. So that is something that powerfully stayed with me. And I still contemplate that very, very often. That even though there are patterns and we find the pattern the most resonates with us, and then we live that life, we live the story or variations of that story, that the goal is to become one with the cosmos and to co-create with the cosmos. And that's where the manifestation and the secret and all of those philosophies come into play even today. And I also, like you, have partnered them with my ancient beliefs to come up with something more powerful and more relevant to today's adventures.
Well, absolutely correct. I mean, and it's not talked about enough for many reasons in this society in which we live. But the great teachers of New Thought spirituality, I mean, that also comes into play because they talked about the universal principles of existence, the universal principles of thought, and mythology was the same way that those heroes exist in all of us, those heroes that we were subject to. But when you're talking about the great teachers of New Thought spirituality, it's basically the same thing. Universal vision, a universal concept of just who we are. And the fact of the matter is You mentioned about the constellations earlier, and that's so true. There they are. The gods are right there for us to look at
And the
in the
planets.
sky. They're there. Yes, yes. And you just know, you know that you know within your spirit that there's a lot more to it than what some of us have been raised on or taught as we were growing up in terms of the invisible world. You always knew once you came in contact with the many mythological characters of those times, and you just knew there was something more to living than what you were being exposed to in your everyday existence in this society anyway. You just knew it. And that's why so many of us, when we were young, were drawn to these heroes.
Yes.
Uh, Specifically in Greek mythology, why did they touch us the way they did? Why did the spirit of that, why did it touched us for, because it awakened our own imaginative uh, origins, the energy that was already within. They awakened that energy, that universal energy that exists in all of us. That's what the Greek myths did for us, and naturally when we learned about the Dead Sea Scrolls and the mystery schools and what they taught in terms of the kingdom of the universe, the kingdom of God, really lives within us. That's where the Creator is. Yes, we're connected to something that we have yet to define. I agree with that, but we also know that that energy is lives within us. It dwells within us, but we were never taught how to release it. We were never taught how to enjoy it, to magnify it, to make it part of our own lives, and in terms of being successful in anything we did, until we were subject to the wonderful world of sword and sandal cinema specifically during the decades of the 60s. So for me, it even goes beyond anything we've discussed prior to this. I believe that when we recognize our Olympian mind as we walk the Olympian path, once we recognize that on a daily basis, acknowledge it on a daily basis, now we have another opportunity to fire up our imagination and apply that to our manifestation practices, because it's really all one. Once we acknowledge the hero within us, every other negative aspect of our lives suddenly falls by the wayside. And now we focus on those wonderful heroes, and we, in essence, become one of those heroes. And now
Yes.
another energy has been enlivened within us, and that's the energy of those heroes. And suddenly, our reality takes on a whole different meaning.
And it's very possible to think that way. The one I share that I'm going through now, because I live the labors. The labors are something I'm always doing. Not all of them at once, but many of them at once, and I juggle labors. But in Greek mythology, in the labor that Hercules had to retrieve the golden apples of the Hesperides, and there's a lot of mythology about golden apples and immortality and health and things like that. There is a dragon called Ladon. And
Mm-hmm.
Ladon, like most of the monsters in Greek mythology, is the child of Typhon and Echidna, were the parents, the primal parents of all monsters. And Ladon's heads speak, and they all speak at the same time, and they all say different things. And as I'm on
Mm-hmm.
my bodybuilding journey, my physical culture journey, I run into
Mm-hmm.
lots of experts, and they're all saying different things through their experiences and what they happen to be presenting and so forth. And they can't all be right, and they can't all be wrong. So, which head are you going to listen to? But you have to contend with the heads because that's part of the journey. So regardless how you feel about Lavin is there if you begin a new journey to help you discern the truth. What is the truth? Whose truth is it? Do you have to find your own truth? Do you accept somebody else's truth? Do you experiment with truth? And those are all very important questions when you're on any path. So
Mhm.
Lavan, in the way he's a monster, but in the way he's a teacher as well, because he
Mhm.
helps prepare you for your own hero journey through the stars.
That's 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 all part of what's living both within us and without. I wanted to ask you or make this point and then ask you a question if I can,
Sure.
because you've talked a lot about theosophy, and if I can just meditate on that for a minute and then get your insights on this. To me, the weren't just fanciful tales created by various cultures. We know that. The fact is that they are the foundation for beliefs and rites still found in religions today.
Correct.
Uh, for example, I mean, belief in an immortal soul can be traced to the Babylonian era, Egyptian, Greek, Roman mythology, right up until Christianity. I mean, ancient man has always been searching for gods. There are common beliefs. There's common beliefs that cross cultures. So why is there a consistent search for God amongst mankind? It has to be due to the fact that our minds are wired to seek the source, to seek the infinite. Having said that, what are your reflections on theosophy? The research that I've done, and I'm sure you're far more knowledgeable in the entire history than I am. Was it created by Blavatsky, I believe her name was? Am I pronouncing her name correctly?
Blavatsky, Helena Petrovna
Yes.
Blavatsky. Uh,
Okay.
she brought back theosophy. Theosophy literally means divine insight or divine wisdom. And
Okay.
in antiquity, it rose during the Hellenistic era, or when Egypt and Greece and Rome were the powers that be, and that there was a culture that there were the cultures that united lots of the areas around the Mediterranean and other seas. So
Mm-hmm.
the Phoenicians who were on the Mediterranean near the what's called the Holy Lands. They're called the Canaanites in biblical literature, and they're portrayed as
Mm-hmm.
degenerates and primitive. But actually, they had a naval empire that brought them to America, so they were pretty sophisticated. And in addition to
Mm-hmm.
bringing uh, goods and services um, from place to place, they also brought their stories, and they also brought their religious and philosophical concepts, and they gave us the beginnings of the alphabet. And
I see. I'm interested.
the Greeks, they added vowels to the alphabet, which helped evolve it. And in Rome,
Mm-hmm.
the Phoenician alphabet and the Greek alphabet, what do you call it, became kind of universal when dealing with barbarian people, either beyond the confines of Rome. So there was a wisdom that was kind of universal and spread by the Phoenicians.
Mm-hmm.
But then that, like all things, died down and countries became separate and empires fell and rose and so forth. So when Alexander the Great's empire tied everything together, and then it was tied together with the might of Rome. For a while, the wisdom of Egypt and the wisdom of Greece and the wisdom of Rome, or the ability of Rome to take things and make it their own, those were very powerful. There was a library system where a lot of information was stored and recorded and made available to different scholars. And it was noticed that in addition to the religion that the people had, their festivals and their myths and stories, even though these things
Mm-hmm.
contained a lot of wisdom, some of it coded or some of it in parable, there was another level that the initiates hid, and these were the mysteries. And that information contained a lot of things in there that were very deeply psychological. There was information on navigation, on the heavens, that was part of the esoteric traditions. And the esoteric traditions, like they would take away your fear of death because of what you
Mm-hmm.
experience. Usually it was like a death or rebirth type of thing. When the
Mm-hmm.
classical world fell, theosophy went underground, and it
Mhm.
was preserved by different magical traditions, and occasionally would rise from the darkness and exist for a while in the light of day. There was a Christian theosophy for a while. There were other theosophies. Uh,
Mhm.
the Muslims, they had access to a lot of this information, studied it for a space during their history in Europe and in the ancient Near East and so forth. And Blavatsky, back in the 1800s, uh, brought it back, and she added areas beyond what the Greeks, the Romans, and the Egyptians had, um, like India. Even though that was part of the original theosophy, Blavatsky greatly included Buddhism, Hinduism, and systems like that into her version of theosophy. And then from theosophy rose several other branches in the modern time, the most prominent and well known being the I Am movement.
Yes,
And I call
yes.
it neo-theosophy because it's kind of like new theosophy. And
Mhm.
neo-theosophy shares a lot of the things from before,
Mhm.
but it also introduced a lot of new concepts. Like Blavatsky would have been mortified by the I Am movement because it combined theosophy with spiritualism. And Blavatsky
Right.
was of the very strong opinion that spiritualism was a form of degeneracy, even though she studied it and was a practitioner, that it was a hindrance on the path to wisdom to talk with ghosts and spirits because you don't know what ghosts or spirits you're speaking to. So my
I see.
training,
So
go
she
ahead.
wasn't in favor. She wasn't in favor of spiritualist practices.
No, because she was a spiritualist. And when she first came to America, she got involved in the spiritualist movement that was in New York. Blavatsky landed in New York. She met with Colonel Olcott, who was a officer during the Civil War, I believe, and together they
Mhm.
launched the Theosophical Society. And then they moved to India, and they were responsible almost single-handed for preserving traditional Indian religion and philosophy and so forth. They helped them create the first flag and maintain pride in their heritage, which the British Empire was trying to minimize and subdue them by like discrediting their antique ways of looking at world, the traditional ways of looking at world. So theosophy is credited with helping with Indian independence and so forth. So they've had a powerful impact on the world. And the New Age movement uses the vocabulary and a lot of the concepts from theosophy and neo-theosophy.
Right, right. I'm sure they adopted a lot of that from theosophy.
Yes, and my personal training was with a group, and here they bought into the combining theosophy with spiritualism. They didn't have a name
Hmm.
though, and they didn't call themselves I Am either. They call themselves the Work because you were doing the work of character
Hmm.
building, which meant to them you were making yourself more godlike in the world by working on your character. But I was
Hmm.
their deep trance medium for many years. So my training
I
came from
see.
one of these splinter Blavatsky groups that existed. It might still exist for all I know.
So let me ask you, in terms of spiritualism, with all of your experience in these vast areas, have you ever experienced anything in terms of the afterlife where, because I know I have, and I wasn't seeking it at the time I had the experiences, it just happened. But did you ever experience anything that you could honestly say the veil between this life and the next life actually opened for you?
Oh yes,
Were there any you have?
countless times. Yeah, I don't doubt that the other world is right here. I'll give you one example. It's not a very profound one, but when we lived in Pennsylvania, we had ghosts, like we have ghosts here, and we had in other places we lived. And in one of the
Hmm.
ghosts was a cat, and it was like a
Hmm.
Siamese cat. And this cat would like rub against your leg. It would make sounds like it was eating when there's nothing there by the food bowl. It would hop into bed. And not only did we see it, but other people visiting us or staying over would ask about the Siamese cat. And it's like, well, we don't have a living Siamese cat, but there's a, a dead Siamese cat, we guess. Uh, and
Mm-hmm.
I called it Ghost because what else am I going to call it? And for a couple of years, I wasn't even sure if it was a cat because invisibles can disguise themselves many times and take on the
Mm-hmm.
guise of people or animals or spirits or so forth. So I wasn't entirely convinced it was a cat for a couple of years, but then I could think of nothing else it could be. It behaved like a cat. It didn't change. It wasn't scary. It just was there. So one of our cats had kittens, and the ghost cat stopped appearing. And then when she gave birth to kittens, even though she wasn't a Siamese, one of the kittens looked like a Siamese. So I called out ghost, and the kitten who was just born responded to my voice, kept trying to come over to me. So before she could walk or even be alive long, she responded to the name Ghost, which I used to call the ghost, and she kept trying to get to me. She never behaved like a kitten.
Mm-hmm.
She always behaved like a cat. And when I got agitated with her, I tell her I know why she was a ghost. She probably annoyed people excessively. That's why she wound up being a ghost. We still have Ghost, and it's been
So
19
you're still,
years
you're
later.
just,
Yeah,
you're
she's still with us, and she still doesn't behave like a cat. Uh,
remarkable. That's
so
amazing.
that's one
I,
example.
I, I just love that because my years I've been very committed to exploring mediumship, evidential mediumship. I've had many readings, and so I'm very, I guess, discretionary, you might say, because I've had some bad readings where I could tell there was really nothing going on. However, I've had some readings that pretty much impossible to explain other than say they were authentic. But I've had some personal experiences that till today, as we speak, I cannot, by scientific means, as we know them, explain what happened to me. When Scruffy passed away, I think it was about 2 weeks after he passed away, I was lying on a mattress downstairs. We were getting ready. I was getting ready to move from where I am now, and I'm lying on a mattress. And of course, I was I was still in mourning, you might say, still am for that matter, over losing him. But all of a sudden, something I've never experienced before or since, I felt way up on the top. It wasn't muscular. It was just about near my collarbone. I felt as if something was pressing up on my back 4 consecutive times, as if somebody took their thumb and went 1, 2, 3, 4, and it was hard pressure. I never turned around. I knew automatically it was him. He he tried to made an attempt to visit with me. And I knew it was his nose, it was his nose, just pressing up against my back. And that was the first visitation. The second visitation was when I first moved to where I am now. I had a quick, I would say it was 7 seconds at the most. I was sleeping. The reason I know it was a visitation is the fact that it was only 7 seconds at the most. I had him on a leash. He was sitting on the floor, and he was just looking up at me, and I had him on a leash. I classify that as a visitation because
Yes.
it wasn't a dream. It wasn't a dream. That was a visit. So since he passed away, he's been gone a year. I can honestly say to you that I've had 2 paranormal experiences concerning him. The first one, of course, was I just couldn't believe it. I mean, I knew it was him. It was universal intelligence talking to me. I never turned around. I knew that was him. He came. He tried to communicate with me. So that was my first experience with the paranormal. And then the other, of course, is, and I discovered this through experience. My father Was very humble, quiet, discreet man, but very open, as I may have explained in our last session, very open but to paranormal. Always fascinated him. He said he was shaving one day, and he felt like something crawling, like a bug was crawling on his forehead. He said, and he said to me, he said, you know, I was wondering, what is that? I'm in here, and I feel like something crawling down my forehead. So he went and lied on the bed. He didn't say anything. He was doing this for months, and he would have his eyes closed. And he said, I'm in, believe it or not, he said, I'm in touch with your grandfather, which was his father. I said, how can you tell this, Dad? What's going on? He managed to figure this out. His father, my grandfather, was printing on his forehead, spelling words out. And my father would just lay there very still. He said, and then he said this to me. He said, go and ask your grandmother if she ever knew somebody named Louisa something, some Italian woman. I said, okay. I went back and asked my grandma. I said, Gram, did you know somebody named such and such? She said, where did you come up with, how did you know that? I said, well, Dad told me that he's in touch with Grandpa, believe it or not, and Grandpa and she said, oh my God. She said, I never mentioned that woman to him. She said, she was a friend of the family. She said, I never mentioned that woman. How does he know? I said, well, believe it or not, he's in touch with Grandpa. So I asked my dad, I said, how do you do this? I tried it. I laid on the bed, closed my eyes. And here's what I get. I feel it, something touching my forehead, and it's running down the end of my nose, but I can't determine what it is. You know, I can't determine what they're trying to tell me, nor can I determine who it is, but I do feel it. I feel it in my forehead. And my dad was doing this for months before he got sick and eventually passed. But I'll make you laugh a little bit. He asked my grandfather, he said, is there a God? And my grandfather said, no. So then my father asked him, is there a Jesus? And he said, yes. They didn't get along very well. So my father asked him, true story, he said, you're waiting for me to die, aren't you? And my grandfather said, yes. It's a true story. What I'm telling you is absolutely. So the true story. I knew my dad was experiencing exactly what he was saying and experienced. But what I found remarkable is he had the focus to be able to determine what was being spelled on his forehead. Then some months later, I was listening to a psychic on WOR radio, and the psychic said, from England, he said, one of the ways you can tell you might be visited is if you feel cobwebs on your face. If you feel like there's cobwebs on your face, he said, that's one of the ways. So that made me think of my dad immediately. But I can tell you that up until today, I do get the pressure, like sometimes something's running down my forehead, running down the end of my nose. I know somebody's trying to talk to me. But unlike my father, I cannot determine who it is. I'm unable to do that. True stories.
No, I believe you, and a lot of what you said is familiar. I have two questions to ask you, or two things to tell you about. I have extra copies of The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success and The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. Could you use either of those, or do you want either of those?
I have The Secret. I don't have the seven laws of success by Deepak Chopra. I don't
Deepak
have
Chopra.
that.
Okay, it's
Yes.
yours now. I'll mail it to you sometime this week.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's very kind of you. No, I don't have that. Yeah, that was one of his more popular books. I
Yes,
remember when it was first published. Yes.
it is a
Yes,
small
I'll
paperback copy, so it's easy to put in your pocket and take around with you. And also, we have different shows that are coming up, but one of them is the UFO show, which you know about, the UFO entity enigma. And I occasionally have one on cryptids, but we started some new ones. One of them that's started already is called Everything Paranormal.
mhm.
Paul Dale Roberts is the host on that one. And I do occasionally shows on life after death and things like that. And we also honor people like we've honored Brad Steiger and Tim Beckley so far and put them in our Hall of Heroes, and we're torchbearers. So it doesn't mean you have to believe anything or live a certain way or anything like that. It's just that we were inspired by people doing this growing up, and now we're the ones doing it. So we're passing on the
Absolutely.
torch.
Well, I'm excited that you're opening up all these channels of opportunity because I think most Americans, if you sat down with them, I think most Americans these days, unlike when I was growing up in the 50s, most Americans would probably tell you, yes, I do believe in ghosts. I do
Right.
believe in spirit survival. I think even the more conservative ones, would probably, this isn't just my experience, would tell you, yes, I do believe that there's something after this, there's an afterlife. And there's some incredible things that are happening right now. There's a gentleman that has and you can look him up. He has a website called Hope Paranormal. And what he does is he has this electronic equipment set up. Don't ask me the details because I don't know exactly what it contains. But I've been watching him for months, and you are able to get a reading. But he's had all of this, I don't know how many stars that have passed away. He has spoken to them, and you see it on the video, and you hear it and the conversation.
Oh,
And
wow.
he asked them questions. Why I know this guy is authentic is the voices are just like those that when they were alive. He's done Michael Jackson. He's already spoken to Robert Redford, many others, and you can tell. And so I shot him a message. Do you read regular people? Yeah, absolutely. He gave me his website. He charges money, but it's not much compared to what a lot of these so-called mediums are charging. And you can hear the voice. The voice comes through.
Oh,
Voice
wow.
comes through. Yeah. They call them dark boxes. There's a number of the spirit boxes, but his equipment is quite elaborate. The equipment he's using is quite elaborate, and there's no show business aspect of this. He's a very humble guy. He sits there with a T-shirt on, and he's very careful how he talks to them. But they've all come through, and he reads regular people, and that's on his website too. It's called Hope Paranormal.
Hope.
Hope Paranormal. You can get him, and I'd like to get your opinion if you check him out. What you think? To me, the gentleman is authentic. This is the real deal. And I'll tell you something. I may have shared this opinion with you. I said 10 years ago, approximately 10 years ago, to my friends and associates, I said, I believe there will be a day when there'll be some kind of electronic equipment that you can attach to your TV and you will be able to talk to the dead. Now, I just had this feeling that in our age of electronics and everything we're doing, and what's available to us, that there will be a day, because everything's vibration anyway, at the end of the day, everything's vibration, that we will have that ability. And this gentleman, and there are others, but he seems more elaborate than anything I've been exposed to. He has done it, and he's right out in the open. Anybody who wants, he said, anybody who wants to investigate me, I'm here. All the evidence is here. So he's talked to some famous stars. And the crazy thing is, the voice that comes through, it's a little harsh, but it sounds like the people we're discussing. And like I say, it's Michael Jackson, Robert Redford, and Paul Newman. So he's contacted these stars, but people have hired him to give personal readings. There's no doubt in my mind anymore that mediumship is very authentic. It's very real. And the funny thing is that with everything I've experienced up to this point, I'm looking for another visit from Scruffy. I haven't had one that I know of. but I believe he's with me. They don't, it takes a lot of, from what I understand, it takes a lot of energy to cross over, whether it be animals or people. They just can't, appear. It takes a lot of energy to do that. And who knows what, but I know he visited me twice, and I'm hoping for one more visit because, he meant the world to me. But this is all true stuff.
Yes,
Mediumship and
I know.
spirit.
I remember when this happened,
Yeah.
you're describing to me.
Yeah, did I? Yeah, I may have already told you this story, but and I'm sorry if I'm being repetitive.
No, no, no. I
But
tell my stories all the time. It
yeah,
definitely fits into what you're talking about, and it's and somebody having similar experiences can take comfort in the fact that they're not alone. So that's a good thing.
I think it's a very good thing, and that we have the ability to. I think it's a very blessed experience to know that they're still with us, just on another energetic level. And like I say, depending on what your own spiritual beliefs are, uh, I believe that's the way things really are. I mean, I think we simply transition to another vibrational level of existence. That's my own opinion, with all respect to our various religious denominations, because we can worship in any temple. It doesn't matter, or we can worship at home. There used to be this gentleman in the 1980s, and I used to watch him all the time. He used to have a program on cable called, you may be familiar with this, Hidden Truths. His name was Bill Donahue, and he would always teach about. In fact, you can get him on the internet as well. He's in his 90s now, and I watched a video of him the other day. He said, don't go to any church. You don't have to go to any temple. You don't have to go to any house of worship. He said, God's right here with you now. And what do you think he uses as his reference book? The Bible.
Hmm.
But he looks at the Bible from a metaphysical perspective. And he makes perfect sense. He said, God is right here with you now. He said, God is with you and within you. And he had a blackboard there, and he used to making all kinds of notes. But he was right. I believe he was right then. I believe the mystery schools were correct, and for various aspects of theosophy are correct. And this other level of existence is available to us right now. And ironically, our technology is making it even more available. And I always thought that might be the case, and it's happening.
When I experimented with uh, disincarnates and things like that, when I was investigating ghosts more actively, I found that with
Hmm.
a tape recorder, you can catch ghost voices. So if you like had the tape recorder on, you go to the haunted area, and you'd ask questions, you'd hear things
Hmm.
afterwards. And it's not, it seems you have to like develop it by playing it a few times back. And the more you played it
Hmm.
back, the clearer the voices were. But sometimes you get answers to questions. I was living in an apartment in Forest Hills, New York, in Queens, and
Hmm.
I kept having dreams of this old man, and he was angry, and he kept accusing me of taking his money. And uh, so I asked around people who lived on the same floor. I asked the landlord, and it seemed like some man had died in the apartment where I was, and he was hiding
Hmm.
money in magazines. So he was a hoarder, and
Hmm.
they were getting rid of all his magazines. And one of the repair guys who was there helping to empty the place out dropped a magazine, and lots of money fell out of it. So then they found they had money in all the magazines. So that was where the money that he thought I took. So I explained to him in my meditations that I don't have his money and that he's passed on, and the money's long gone. Some of it went in the garbage because the magazines got thrown out.
Oh my goodness.
Some of it wound up
So
with him.
you you have actually experienced the electronic voice phenomenon. You've
Yes,
actually experienced it.
the ghost
Wow.
started talking to me. It left the name of somebody who was related to it. And when I asked some questions, I got knocks on the wall. And when I counted the knocks, the numbers meant something. Like the apartment was something like, I don't remember exactly, right? Let's say it was 603. There was like a
Hmm.
six knocks at one point, no knocks for a little while, and then three knocks. after that. So that was easy to figure out is the apartment number. So that was pretty active. And what happened was once I started communicating with this old man, other
Hmm.
ghosts started coming into the house and I'd record them. But yeah, the EVF, the electronic voice phenomenon, was
Yes.
around for a while. And white, they seem to use white noise to bounce what they're,
White noise.
yes.
Right. Hmm.
And
In
even now,
fact,
sometimes, go ahead.
didn't they make a movie like on that
Yes,
topic? I think.
yes, it did.
Okay.
But um, I forget what I was going to say. But anyway, that phenomenon is very real, and we have equipment now that can pick this stuff up. Like people have picked up photographs of orbs. They've picked up photographs since the birth of photography of people who have passed on, and
Hmm.
the pictures. Or so it's a really interesting phenomenon, and it's really interesting that we have
So
the technology to do it.
you've experienced quite a bit of afterlife phenomenon yourself.
Yes,
I did not know that. I did not know that. That's exciting and very interesting
I've had a very
because it
interesting
happens
life.
to, yeah, it happens to be it was a passion of Karen's as well. Karen and I both. We used to go to the spiritualist church up on Pompton Turnpike.
Uh-huh.
The name of it. She passed away. Her name was forgot her name. She just passed away 2 years ago. But we attended. That was a church. It was attached to the Spiritualist Union in England. So they had really professionals that really studied for years and years and years. And we attended services there and had many readings there, and most of which were not did not disappoint. You know, they trained there. You can also train. You can still go. The original pastor has left us, unfortunately, but you can still go. That was up on near Pompton Lakes, near the Pompton Lakes area, as I recall, and it was very popular. So, I mean, it's been a passion of mine, and it was of Karen's also to study the concepts of the afterlife. So, this is exciting to hear that you've had many more experiences than I have had, obviously, and it's quite impressive, and it just gets me excited because I think it's a area of research that you can learn so much in terms of who we really are and what may happen to us if we once we make transition to our next level, if you will.
So I'll invite you to those adventures as well, and we could have these conversations on a regular basis. And the hours zoom by very quickly. And you've have a wonderful ministry, and you pray for people in the white light. And you've written very interesting things about dietary science and also your poetry. How can people find you and explore the worlds that you offer more readily?
Well, I believe in white light healing and white light meditation, and we can discuss the process that I use in maybe our next get together. But they can send me the prayer requests, preferably handwritten. I'll write them back, and at Michael Del Russi, 135 Hazel Street, apartment 7E in Clifton, New Jersey. That's 07011. I also have a poetry collection, which I believe I'm very proud of, and it opens up the channels to receive on a mystical level. And that's $10 a copy, and they can write me a check or money order if they like to Michael Del Russi, Box 135, Hazel Street, Apartment 7E, Clifton, New Jersey 07011. And I know it will help in raising consciousness to another level. I'm very proud of it.
And I enjoyed reading it, and it's excellent, and I highly recommend it. Thank you, my friend, for today's conversation. I always enjoy speaking with you, and I'm looking forward to our next one already. Thanks to all who tuned in. Until next time, joyous journeys and amazing adventures to all. And thanks again, Michael Russi.
Blessings to you and to all of the listeners.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night.